The night was colder than usual, the kind of chill that seeps into your bones and makes the world feel silent and unforgiving. Mason Hart, a single father who had spent the better part of his life juggling 2 jobs and raising his 8-year-old daughter, Clara, was walking home from the late shift at the diner. His hands, calloused from years of hard labor, clutched his coat tighter around him as he glanced at the streetlights flickering above. He wasn't expecting anything unusual, nothing that would turn his ordinary Tuesday into a night he'd never forget. And then he saw her. At first, she seemed like any other stranger staggering on the corner, unsteady, arms flailing slightly as if the city itself were pushing her off balance. But Mason's eyes widened when he realized it was Veronica Vale, his company's high-profile, high-powered CEO, and the woman he had never dared to approach outside of the cold, formal walls of the office. She was slurring her words, her expensive heels clicking unevenly against the pavement, and a faint smell of alcohol clung to the air around her. Mason's heart skipped a beat. He knew the streets weren't safe for someone in her state, and he also knew that the consequences of her being found like this could ruin her reputation in an instant. Without thinking, he stepped forward. He approached carefully, calling her name softly, and when she barely acknowledged him, he acted. He steadied her by her elbows, whispering reassurances, and guided her toward the small, dimly lit alley that led to a side street. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't safe. But Mason didn't have the luxury to care about appearances tonight. His priority was clear: get her somewhere secure before something terrible happened. As they walked, she nearly collapsed more than once, and each time he caught her, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier with every step. By the time he guided her to a quiet bench near the little 24-hour cafe he sometimes used as a temporary refuge after his shifts, Mason was out of breath, sweat mingling with the cold night air. Veronica sat down heavily, her head lolling to one side, and for the first time, Mason allowed himself a moment to study her. The image of this woman, always poised, always in control, vulnerable and fragile, made a pang of empathy ripple through him. It was easy to judge someone from afar, easy to assume they had it all, but tonight, he saw the human underneath, the lonely, struggling human who needed help just like anyone else. As he sat beside her, making sure she wouldn't topple over again, Mason realized how strange and surreal this situation felt. He was just a low-level employee, a father who could barely make ends meet, and yet here he was, protecting the woman who often seemed untouchable. He couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride, a sense of purpose beyond the everyday struggle of bills, deadlines, and Clara's school needs. And yet, beneath it all, he felt nervous, because if anyone caught them like this, the story could end badly for both of them. Veronica murmured something unintelligible, and Mason leaned closer, gently supporting her. "It's okay. You're safe now," he whispered. He didn't want to be remembered as the man who let her fall, the man who didn't try. And so he stayed, watching over her until the hours dragged painfully toward dawn. He thought about Clara, sleeping safely at home, and felt a deep, unshakable gratitude for the chance to do something selfless, something purely human. If this story makes you believe in kindness and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heart of a Father. Your support helps spread stories that remind us of the beauty in small, courageous acts. By 5:30 a.m., the first light of day had begun to paint the sky in soft, pale blues, and Veronica stirred awake. Mason helped her to her feet, steadying her as she blinked in the daylight, confusion mixing with the remnants of her night's haze. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time, and something shifted in her gaze. It wasn't the casual acknowledgement of an employee from the office, it was a mixture of gratitude, vulnerability, and a faint, unspoken apology. I remember," she murmured, her voice cracking slightly. "Everything. You saved me." Her words seemed almost too simple for the gravity of the night they had survived, but Mason understood. He had never asked for recognition, never hoped for praise. Still, there was a quiet warmth that filled the space between them, a recognition of shared humanity that neither the office hierarchy nor the city streets could contain. Veronica insisted he come with her, despite Mason's protests. She hailed a cab, but Mason refused payment, insisting he needed to get home to Clara. The ride, however, was filled with conversation, not small talk, but something deeper. Veronica shared flashes of her own struggles, the immense pressure of being at the top, and the loneliness that often came with it. Mason spoke of Clara, of bills and sleepless nights, of hopes and fears that many people never noticed. The world outside that cab window blurred as the two of them, from completely different worlds, connected in ways neither expected. The day carried on, and word of the CEO's unexpected disappearance the night before had begun to circulate in whispers throughout the company. Veronica, usually composed and untouchable, made her way to the office with a quiet determination. But she did something she had never done before. She called Mason to her office. And when he entered, she didn't greet him with cold professionalism or bureaucratic detachment. Instead, she smiled, a little shyly, a little awkwardly, but genuinely. "You saved me last night," she said simply. "And I think you deserve to know that it hasn't gone unnoticed." Mason felt a lump in his throat. He had never sought recognition. He had never imagined that this act of care could bridge such an enormous gap between them. But Veronica wasn't done. She offered him a promotion, not just a raise, but an opportunity to lead a small team, to be recognized for his intelligence and work ethic, for the compassion that had guided him through the coldest, most dangerous moments. Mason hesitated, the offer almost surreal. He thought of Clara, of the stability he could provide her, of the life that might finally feel a little less like a constant uphill climb. But more than that, he thought of the principle that had guided him, that people deserve kindness, that sometimes the smallest acts ripple out into waves that change everything. Accepting Veronica's offer wasn't about the money or the prestige, it was about the recognition of shared humanity, the proof that doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, matters. The weeks that followed were transformative, not just professionally, but personally. Veronica began to see Mason in a new light, not just as an employee, but as someone who reminded her of the human side of life, the kindness that often gets buried beneath responsibilities and ambition. Mason found himself respected in ways he had never imagined, but more importantly, he saw Clara smiling a little brighter, feeling a little safer, knowing her father was finally stepping into a life where his efforts were recognized and valued. One afternoon, as Mason walked home from the office, he passed the same alley where the previous night had unfolded. He paused, glancing around. It seemed so ordinary now, a place of shadows and quiet, but he knew the memory of that night would stay with him forever. It reminded him that life could change in the span of a few hours, that courage and compassion were not just abstract ideals but real, tangible forces that could alter destinies. Veronica never forgot either. In the office, she quietly mentored Mason, ensuring his team thrived, speaking up for him when opportunities arose, and often, in private, simply expressing gratitude. Their relationship was not romantic, it was deeper, a mutual respect built on the raw, unvarnished truth of that night. They were proof that kindness, even in unexpected circumstances, could forge bonds stronger than wealth, power, or social status. Months later, Mason sat at the park with Clara, watching her play on the swings. The sun was high, the day bright and filled with the laughter of children. He felt a lightness in his chest, a calm certainty that the struggles of yesterday were not in vain. Life had tested him, pushed him to his limits, but it had also rewarded him in ways he never imagined, through recognition, opportunity, and the unspoken understanding that sometimes, saving someone else could also save a part of yourself. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness and courage can change lives. Let's celebrate the everyday heroes, the people who step forward when the world turns its back. Before we end, take a moment to cherish the moments where small actions create big ripples, where empathy becomes the bridge between lives, and where the seemingly impossible is made possible by simply caring. Mason's story is a testament to that truth, a reminder that in a world that often feels cold and indifferent, kindness still holds the power to transform destinies. And so, as the day stretched on, bright and full of possibility, Mason walked home with Clara, hand in hand, heart full of hope, knowing that the world was a little gentler because he chose to care when it mattered most.